Hey guys, how's it going? So, I figured I'd make this list because it's been a while, and with the recent cancellation of Awakened Potential, they're giving us a 5-star Covenant Selector in everybody's mailbox after the patch hits. And we'll also be getting a triple custom banner pretty soon as well, so I think now is a pretty good time to make this. So this is mainly focused on RTA, but I also tried to factor some other really important things in. So I have S, A, B, and then the NA tier, where I just don't recommend you pick them. Then I have a PvE tier, an Imprint tier, an Artifact tier, and then these are characters that you 100% cannot choose. So keep in mind, we don't know exactly how Smilegate is doing the Selector or the custom banner exactly yet, because normally they don't let you pick characters that are 6 months in the past from right now. So you wouldn't be able to choose characters such as Brieg or Kane as an example, right? But we don't know exactly how they're doing that. I believe the cutoff would be maybe somewhere around Abigail or maybe one after that. But I figured I'd just put everyone on the list essentially, so if they happen to actually be on the Selector, then you could choose them. The only characters that I'm pretty damn sure you're not going to be able to choose on the Selector or the custom banner are probably Midnight God Lilius, Ocean Breeze Luca, Lethe, Ahmed, because with limited characters they always force you to have at least one rerun of that character before you're able to choose them, and none of them have ever had a rerun, and then obviously none of the collab units are allowed either. So let's just quickly go through this. S tier, I think these are the characters that are kind of best to choose. You might not be able to choose Nakwal though, keep in mind. Lua is obviously one of the best RTA characters in the entire game. Destina is one of the best Soul Weavers, and Ran is one of the best cleave units and just like speedy boys. And what's important is some of these characters like Ran are not as good in the current meta this moment. But what sets them apart is they're generally really strong, and I'm looking towards the future as well with some of them. So characters like Ran, if we're looking towards the future, are probably still going to be really good and useful, even if they aren't amazing at the moment, which is why I put him up there. And he also helps bridge the gap between slower players and fast players. Lua, we all know she's completely broken RTA, resets, full control of your team. Same with Nakwal as well. And Destina, she's just a really great Soul Weaver, good against aggressive teams, good in slower matches, just a really solid cleanse and heals, just a really good support to have. Let's look at the A tier now. So these are characters that I think are pretty darn solid and good choices, possibly for multiple reasons. So Peyra, she really fell off because there's more counters to her. Moon Bunny and Summer Luluka are two characters that are really great against her, not to mention characters like DJ Basar. So she definitely fell down, but when you pick her later in the draft in the right position, she can be incredibly strong. Shu, well, she's a terror of Guild War, but even in RTA, you don't see as much of her, but she's always just been a solid character to have. She's just a really good bruiser that's able to just pull out wins out of nowhere, but with the more RNG characters like Yufine and Landy, you don't really see her as much now because she's not able to fight them too easily. But going into the future, we might see more of her. She also has a really good imprint. Yolha, she's essentially just better Crow. Right now there's only really Lastra Crow and Airwolf used at the moment. You see a little bit of Crimson Armin, and I would say maybe the fourth pick would be something like Yolha. Depends how many ML5s you have and what your options are if you would want her. Zaha, he's actually seen a lot less usage because people have been bulking up their Aidens and having them behind Airwolf, so he actually can't do enough damage to kill some of those. But in general, on average, he will usually do a pretty good job at killing these evasion characters, giving some aggression, and the cleanse is actually really helpful against some of these fast units, such as, like, it used to be Peyra, but some of these other characters, he can be pretty useful just to be able to cleanse certain debuffs. Senya, she's a great anti-aggro tool. She's actually pretty solid into characters like Landy, just assuming that they're not able to get immunity, she can actually control and kind of kill them by herself. So she's just a nice character to have. I know the Chinese region definitely loves drafting Senya all the time, but I think the biggest part is just the fact that she adds that RNG element where you're not sure if you're going to be able to kill her or not. Rowana, this character is very useful in PvE content, really good in a lot of PvE content, especially challenging content, but also has some merits in Guild War and RTA, so I figured that she deserved to be moved up a tier, even if she's not amazing in RTA right now. There's certain matchups where she'll be a must ban, where the opponent has to get rid of her, like, let's say against Solitaria or something like that. She's not as good of a Landy counter as a lot of people think, though, so keep that in mind. Okay, or Emma Landy. Speaking of which, there's regular Landy. She's really fallen off. You don't see as much of her. Most people use her like fast damage on Guiding Light, but she's definitely kind of fallen by the wayside compared to before, even though she's still a nice character to get, and she is limited. Lilius, this character is mainly used as an anti-Lua tool when you have Mort's artifacts specifically. At the moment, she's like okay, not really amazing, but you'll see her used sometimes in conjunction with Moon Bunny as well against characters like Lua, because it makes it so that she can't really hit any buttons or she gets punished. Then we have a character like Politis. She's not as good right now, but looking towards the future, she'll probably come back into the meta a bunch at some point. But she is really good against characters like Ahmed and some of these CR pushing teams. Most people would run her Degenerate, like really bulky and stuff on the team to really try and just like cause as many debuffs and survive as long as possible. And you don't see her as much in Cleave at the moment, but I think in the future she might become more useful again as Cleave and aggro pick up. Bihu, I think Bihu is really underrated. I don't really use Bihu, I will admit, because I don't really like their design. But I think Bihu is actually way stronger than people give credit for. They're able to fight characters like Emma Landy, they're able to fight characters like Bryceria, Arrowell, Last Rider, Crow. These are all really big picks, and that unbuffable plus being able to just do burn explosion damage is really big, even evasion characters. I think Bihu actually is pretty damn strong. I was considering maybe using them even. I might actually build this character even though I'm not a big fan of the design, just because I'm curious, and I think they have a lot of potential. B rank, these are characters that I think are all right. They're okay. Some people use them more than others, some people use them much less than others, but they're like all right. I think they're like passable in RTA and you can use them. Alencia, I don't see as much use. With Awakened Potential canceled, you're definitely going to see a lot less use too. She definitely fell by the wayside, but I could see in the future her coming back into the meta potentially, depending on how things shift. Arya, she's a character that you kind of have to usually play a certain playstyle, but a lot of the time she becomes a forced ban near the end of the draft. A lot of characters just can't really deal with her. She is very weak to some of this unbuffable stuff that's going around. Obviously, she's not good versus like full resets and stuff unless you have a soul burn. So you have to be really smart about drafting her, and usually in high FRES teams. Arunka, this character, so I'm not a big fan of Arunka, but she is good in Guild War, so I'll give her some extra points for that, even though this is mainly RTA. And I think you can use her in RTA to kill Aiden behind Arrowell, but it's a little bit jank and doesn't always work, but I'll give her a little bit of credit for that. Sharon, she kind of fell off in the current meta, but she was so insanely good. I think as the meta shifts, she'll become good again, especially when Mediator Quirk comes back in. Random Model Laika, she's kind of like an okay speed contest, guiding light character. You don't really see as much of her, but I could see her coming back in the future as things get faster. Ida, she was really good in Cleave and some aggro, but she kind of fell off, especially in the RNG meta, so she's having a rough time. Elagos, I was using him a ton until Euphine. ML Euphine came out, and I thought he was really good in some aggro and Cleave teams. His soul burn into being able to instantly kill Aiden or Spectre Tenebur with the briefcase was really great. Plan, she's kind of fallen off a little bit too, but she was really good in Cleave in the past, and some aggro things. I just don't think that she deserves to be in this tier. Dien, and you know what, I'll pair Dien and Summerbreak Charlotte together. They're both limited, and they're both like decent characters to have. Some cleavers are using Summerbreak Charlotte a lot, but obviously there's not much cleave and aggro, and Dien kind of just comes and goes, but she's always like sort of all right. Elena, some silver players have been using this, especially against stuff like Knockwall to counter them, and I think she has some potential with that. Definitely just against a lot of aggressive AoE as well. She prevents so much damage. She could maybe even be moved up based on your playstyle. The Nat here, I'm not going to go through every character, but these are characters I just do not recommend picking at all for RTA. And even if we're not talking RTA, a lot of them are just not very good for Guild War or much PvE. I just don't really recommend these characters in general. I don't really think most people should choose them, so I'm keeping them right here. And you might have different opinions, but that's how I feel. PvE, Brieg is a god of expos, absolutely amazing expos, and he's able to deal with what's it called, Nightmare Lab as well, one of the fights, so I think he has a lot of merit there. Obviously Tamarin and Asaria, everybody knows them, they're just amazing for most PvE stuff, especially challenge content. Kane, he's really good in Rift, and that's it. That's the only thing he's good in, and you might not even be able to choose him or Brieg. And then SSB, I don't think she's really that great in RTA, but I didn't want to put her in NA, so I figured PvE, she still has some usage, and I don't know, I don't think she deserves to be in this tier. Imprints, these are characters that they imprint mostly into the ML version, and pretty much all of them are crit chance imprints because they're very high value. This is a speed imprint from Vildred though, and the reason I have Euphine here is because MLU Fiend needs to hit that certain breakpoint of defense, exactly 2,000 at least. So sometimes imprints with her can actually make a huge difference. This is why I have her here. And also you can use Holiday Fiend for that as well. And so artifacts, you have Elbrus right here, you have Golden Rose right here, you have Crown right here. Guiding Light is amazing, obviously, right here. You have Fairy Tale's new artifact. It's called Fairy Tale for a Nightmare, which is really good on characters like Solitaria and stuff. Summertime Asaria's artifact is amazing on Pirate Flan. Holiday Fiend's artifact is not amazing per se, but you can use it on Emma Lilius, but I also figured she would be partially an artifact, partially an imprint, same as Euphane. Luna has Draco Plate, which is great, and Ravi has Sigurds, these are all great artifacts that you may just specifically want to be pulling for on the triple banner, right? This is specifically for the triple banner, keep in mind, while everything else is for the actual 5-star selector, and all limiteds are also part of the triple banner and not the 5-star selector. And then these are characters you just 100% cannot choose. We're not 100% sure on some of these characters for the triple banner, like we don't know if you're going to be able to choose Brieg on the triple banner or the Covenant Selector or not. Probably not, but I figured I would just put them there so that I could talk about them for anyone who's curious about it, and if they happen to be on there, well, then you know. So anyways, this is pretty much my whole tier list, and I think I pretty much went over everything just fine. If you have any questions, just leave them below in the comments, and thanks a bunch for watching.